I have two daughters. They're a year apart. Cindy lives down in Southern California. Linda lives in Seaside. She's married to Michael Pangrazio. Michael used to work for George Lucas and Spielberg, in all those movies, Star Wars, Indiana Jones. He's famous in the film community and television for his art skills. Got 2 Emmys for his television work, and they have given me 2 grandchildren. Nathaniel is 12 and a half, Natalie's 11, and I've got pictures in case you want to. No. Anyway, one day my daughter Linda calls me on the phone, says, "Hi, Dad." I said, "Hi, Linda." She said, "Just a moment." And it sounded like she put the phone down on the table, and I heard this clapping. And she picked up the phone and said, "Daddy, did you hear that?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "That's in case you haven't gotten any applause lately." So when I talk to Linda tomorrow, in fact, I'm going to go see the kids on Monday, I'll say she doesn't need to clap for me on the phone, right? I got plenty of applause in Santa Clara. Anyway, let's go back to work. I never thought in my wildest imagination that I would ever be able to have something to say for 2 whole days. I mean, I'm amazed. I'm still amazed at what happens. In fact, I was so excited to get here today to hear what I have to say, right? It's just amazing. So let's talk now about the subject that exploded my life into change. I've never been the same. And that's personal development. It's subject I came in contact with when I was 25 years old. I was raised in southwest Idaho. I still have the old family farm. My papa's gone. He was 93. Mama's gone. She was 79. So it looks like I'm going to be around a long time. Good genes. My papa never retired. When he died, his paycheck was waiting for him. That's pretty good, right? So I intend to be around a long, long time, looks like. But anyway, I was raised in southwest Idaho and still have the old family farm, raising the normal crops in that part of the world. And my neighbor raises Arabian horses, and I furnish clover sometimes for him. And some years it's potatoes, and some years it's winter wheat, and some years it's something else. Also got vineyards. Got a new wine label, just finishing up. Rohn Bittner. Dr. Bittner's my partner. Rohn Bittner Vineyards. The Chardonnay of last year was absolutely incredible. But I, went to college 1 year. And halfway through my second year, I quit. Unfortunately, age 19. Should have stayed in school, right? But I thought, hey, I'm smart enough to get a job. How much smarter do you need to be? So with that kind of shallow thinking back then, I quit school and went to work. A little later got married, started a little family. And, sort of along in the sort of average American family, just young, getting started. And age 25, I'm behind on my obligations, creditors calling once in a while, and I'm embarrassed by being in that position. Very short on my promises to my family, not feeling good about myself. And then I had a chance to meet this extraordinary man by the name of Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf. And a lot of you have already heard that part of my story. A friend of mine had gone to work for him, and he said, "You got to meet this man. He's rich, but he's easy to talk to. And he's got a remarkable philosophy of life and business." So I thought, well, I got to meet this guy. Had a chance to meet him. Long story short, he invited me to participate in his company, and I was with him for 5 years before he died. And he died at the early age of 49. But during that 5 years, I learned these revolutionary things. My parents laid a great foundation for me all those years, which has lasted me all of my life. But to open up business and to open up the world and open up opportunity that I could qualify for started with this man by the name of Mr. Schoaf, Mr. Earl Schoaf. And here's one of the early subjects he taught me called personal development. And I've illustrated it in so many ways, but one of the best is when you're teaching kids financial independence. When I teach kids financial independence, here's what I teach. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. But this will also serve as an introduction to personal development. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. The key is to study the marketplace. Tomorrow we may talk about what I taught in Moscow. Profits are better than wages. Capitalism at the grassroots is the vitality of the nation. So you study your marketplace. Now the key is to bring value to the marketplace. Now, up here put time. It takes time to bring value to the marketplace. Actually, there's two parts to the value. To bring a product or a service and to be valuable to the marketplace. To bring value and to be valuable. And it takes time, but we don't get paid for the time. We get paid for the value. So the key is to study the marketplace. What do they need? What could I bring? And what could I become? Management, leadership, whatever. So could I find something valuable to bring to the marketplace? And could I be valuable to the marketplace? That is the key. Study the marketplace. But then my mentor said the main thing is to study yourself. And then when I teach economics to kids, I teach America's ladder to climb. It starts down here at $5 an hour, and this ladder starts going up like this. Top income last year, there's a whole variety of stories. I'm sure one of the top was something like 26 million, something like that, for 1 year. So we started at $5 an hour, and it would go up to 26 million. Now, here's what we call this. A heck of a ladder. Not much better way to describe it, right? That's a heck of a ladder. So, here's what everybody has the opportunity to climb the ladder. Now, first, all you need is what? A chance. That's all everybody needs is a chance and a start, and now education as to how to take advantage of your chance, how to get started, and use your education to move up this ladder, speaking financially. Now, there's a lot of ways to grow, but speaking financially, this is the deal. So let's say you start at $5 an hour. And really, who cares where you start as long as they let you on the ladder. So you start at $5 an hour. Now the first key is, how do you increase the $5? And there's several philosophies to increasing the $5. Here's number one. Wait for them to raise the minimum wage. Right? Wouldn't that be one philosophy? Now, the last time it took how many years, right? Several years to raise the minimum wage, which is okay. I'm not saying it isn't okay. It's one way to get an increase in income is to wait for the minimum wage. Okay, here's the next philosophy. To wait for a raise, which is certainly legitimate. Now the question is, how often do the raises come? Every 6 months maybe, 1 year, they do what? A review. What if you miss the review? Well, you got to wait another 6 months or maybe a year. So that might take quite a while to go from 5, let's say, to 6. Here's another philosophy. Go on strike. Here's the philosophy we call by demand, to demand more. And if you don't give me more, I'll go on strike. I won't work. Which is one philosophy. To get more by demand. Now, here's the problem with demand. Make the note. Kids need to learn it. You can't get rich by demand. You might get a few more pennies, right? You might get an extra $1. You might get an extra benefit or something, but you can't get rich by demand. Here's why. Not that it isn't America, and not that it isn't that economically now we're doing incredibly well, but here's why you can't get rich by demand. It's the wrong philosophy. And here's what would be tragic all your working life. To live in the right country and have the wrong philosophy. So you can't get rich by demand. Then how could you get rich in America? It's very simple. Change your philosophy. And what would be the new philosophy? Answer. You get rich by performance, not by demand. Now, my mentor says, some people don't just make $5 an hour. They've moved up to 6. How easy would it be to get to 6? Probably pretty easy. If you work for McDonald's, they paid you $5 an hour, hauling out the trash. If you whistle while you haul out the trash, they'll pay you $6 an hour. Right? Here's an unusual person. They deserve $6 just because of their attitude. Wear the hat, say yay McDonald's. Okay? So for that, you get an extra, what? $1 an hour, because the company recognizes, hey, looks like this is going to be an oncoming person. So it's not that difficult to go from 5 to 6. But here's what's interesting. Some earn $50 an hour, 10 times as much. How could you multiply your income by 10? One, you probably couldn't do it waiting for a raise. Certainly you couldn't do it waiting for them to change the minimum wage. And you certainly couldn't do it by demand. Because usually when they make demands, they don't demand that you multiply my income by 10. People don't go on strike for multiplying their income by 10, usually, right? It's just a little increase. So, how could you go from 5 to 10? Interesting. But that's not the end of it. Can you think of somebody that makes $500 an hour? My Beverly Hills attorney, yes. I think. You can think of some, right, that make $500 an hour. Now, 500 multiplies by 10 again. Not just once from $5 to 50, but from 50 to 500 is multiplying by 10 again. Can you multiply by 10 and then multiply by 10? And the answer is yes. One, living in the right country is an advantage. But here's the greatest advantage, having the right philosophy. Now, $500 an hour is not the end of the story. We go right on up to these top incomes. Would a company pay someone $26 million for 1 year's work? And the answer is yes. They do it all the time, right? Not because this guy went on strike. But that's not how he gets the $26 million. So, a change and a shift in philosophy here starts to change everything. Now, my mentor said, you can climb this ladder, Mr. Rohn, as high as you wish to climb it. We're just talking economics now. There's a lot of other values to go for. But speaking economically, you can climb this ladder as high as you wish to climb it if you'll follow this philosophy. And here's what he said. You that have been around for a while have heard me say it. He said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. I got the message, age 25. Then he added, if you work hard on your job, you can make a living, which is noble. If you work hard on yourself, you could make a fortune, which is exciting. I had never heard that kind of philosophy before. Working harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work hard on your job, make a living, which is fine. Work hard on yourself, make a fortune, which is super fine. Or working hard on yourself starts to multiply your value to the marketplace. So we're talking about bringing value and being valuable to the marketplace. And this is the key. We don't get paid for the time, we get paid for the value. Then he put it in the form of a philosophy that I've been teaching now all these years, which is so important. And now let me give you that philosophy. He said, success is something you attract by the person you become. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Success is not something you pursue, chase, run after. Success is something you develop, something you become. You attract success. Tomorrow we're going to talk leadership. Here's the theme of leadership. To attract attractive people, you must be attractive. To attract skillful people, you must be skillful. To attract committed people, you must be committed. So the whole key to unlock all the treasures, whether it's economic treasures or spiritual treasures, financial, social, personal, every way you can possibly think of, is by your own personal development. And then he added one more, which is so important, and it's probably worth the price of the seminar. Here it is. What you become is much more valuable than what you get. What you become is much more valuable than what you get. The major question to ask on the job is not what am I getting here. The major question to ask on the job is what am I becoming here? Not what am I getting, what am I becoming? So it's very important what you become. Because what you become attracts. If you become cynical, you attract cynicism. What you become attracts. So this whole subject of personal development was so vitally important to me. It changed my life. I was a millionaire by age 31. And that was just the economic part of it. It took me 6 years from age 25 to age 31. It was unbelievable. So, right country, but a refinement of philosophy is what's important. So let's now talk about personal development. The first subject is called the seasons. An understanding of the seasons to illustrate the total aspect of life. One of the best ways to illustrate for your children or for anyone life situations is to use the illustration of the seasons. So let's go through it. Here they are, the seasons. Number 1, you cannot change the seasons until you get your own planet. Right? You can't change the seasons. They're set. All of this has been set in motion. But here's the next piece of information. You can change yourself. You can't change the seasons, but you can change yourself. Life and business is like the changing seasons. Frank Sinatra sang, life is like the seasons. So now let's quickly go through the seasons. This is a whole study in itself. But I can just give you a little outline here, some ideas, and you can take it from there and use it in whatever manner that would serve you, as well as to serve your own understanding of time, the passing of time. First, learn how to survive the winter. Speaking of life in its simplest aspect, the first key to learn in your life on the spinning planet is to learn how to survive. Now, there's all kinds of winters, right? The winter of the calendar, right? The winter of the actual season. But then there's financial winters and social winters, personal winters. But we understand those because we've all been through them. Barbra Streisand sings, it used to be so natural to talk about forever, but used to be's don't count anymore. They just lay on the floor till we sweep them away. You don't sing me love songs. You don't say you need me. And you don't bring me flowers anymore. A winter song. But we know what those lyrics are about. You know, we've been through those experiences. The winters. Now, here's the key on the winters. Some are long and some are short. Some are easy and some are tough. But they always come right after harvest, right after fall, autumn. So we cannot rearrange the coming of the winters. But here's what we could do. Get stronger, wiser, and better so that we can survive better. And our life will be less eroded by learning to handle the next winter. The next winter of a divorce, the next winter of an illness, the next winter of a death in the family, the next winter of a loss financially, the next winter of a crisis of whatever kind. To be better equipped. So here's the key, to learn the seasons so that you can approach it all in a very intelligent way. For kids, we teach the ant philosophy. The ant philosophy. So for the kids that aren't here, take this home. For the kids that aren't here, the ant philosophy. And here's the little short list on the ant philosophy. Number 1, ants never quit. If an ant is headed somewhere and you stop him, he'll start looking for another way. How long will he look? Till he finds it or till he dies. One way or the other, he'll find it. Okay. So that's a good philosophy. Just never quit like an ant. Here's the next part of the ant philosophy. Ants think winter all summer. You got to think negative when it's positive. And not be disillusioned. That's why ants always seem to be in a hurry. Why are they in a hurry? Because they're thinking winter, 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 hurry, 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 get going, go, 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 go. So you must think negative when it's positive. You must think winter when it's summer. Here's some of the best advice. It comes from classic tradition. A great story says, Don't build your house on the sand in the summer. Why be given that advice? Because it's easy to get faked out in the summer. Right? Blue sky, fleecy clouds, nice weather, so you build your house on the sand. You say, no, you must not be faked out when it's nice. You must think storm in the summer and not get faked out. And if you think storm, now you'll look for a rock on which to build your house. Now you're going to be safe. So you can't think nice when it's nice. You've got to think storm when it's nice. And if you haven't been through one of those storms, you've got to find somebody and say, have you been through one of those storms? Scare me to death, if you will, please, so I will not be faked out here, and I will keep searching. Right. Not to quickly build on the sand because it's nice, but to build on a rock because it's not always going to be like this. The seasons are going to come and change. And if you're not educated to that degree, now you suffer a great loss. So the ant thinks winter in the summer. Now here's the next philosophy. I'm sure the ant thinks summer in the winter. The time to think positive is when it's negative. Why? Because the negative won't last long. How long is the winter? Isn't that long? So the ant thinks summer in the winter. This won't last long. We'll soon be out of here. Just hang on. It's not going to take that long. How long is the night? It's only a few hours. Come on. There's never been a double night. Couldn't you make it a few more hours? And the story says, yes, the night just can't last for. Sometimes it seems like it's going to last forever. And when you have insomnia, right, it seems like the night will never pass. But I'm telling you, sure enough, it will pass. So learn to think day when it's night. And then you must learn to think night when it's day. An old prophet said, work while it's day. Work while it's day because the night's coming. Right? This was before Thomas Edison. And the light. You've got to work when it's day because the night comes when you can't work. Of course, now we can work day and night, but back then you couldn't work when the night came. So you had to get it going, get it in before the night came. So this is a good idea now. Learn to think negative when it's positive. Learn to think storm when there is no storm. Learn to think winter in the summer. But then we must learn to think summer in the winter. We can make it through a few more hours, right? A few more days. It won't be that long. Hang in here. The spring will surely come. Okay. So the winters of life, learn to express those to other people, help them understand that as well as to try to understand it yourself. Now here's the next season, the spring. Spring is called opportunity. Not a guarantee. It's guaranteed the spring will come, but it's not a guarantee of a harvest. Here's the key. You must do something with the spring. Take advantage of the spring. Read every book you can get your hands on what to do with the springs of your life. Take advantage of the day, because the day follows the night. It's an opportunity now to turn things around. It's an opportunity to have a better one than the last one. It's an opportunity for a new beginning, a new spring, a new day, a new beginning. In business, we learn to create an artificial spring. Because in an industrialized society, right, it seems like, the seasons just don't mean that much. When you're a farmer out there, they mean everything. But when you're not, working on the line, whatever. So sometimes you got to create an artificial spring. We're going to take the next 90 days and we're really going to pour it on. Like if you're in sales, the next 90 days I'm going to make every contact possible. You just create an artificial spring. Next 30 days, next 90 days. Right? Bargain with your family. Say, look, I know we were going to do some things the next 90 days, but if you'll postpone those for me, I'll really pay back because I want to use this now as a springtime to go for it, go for it, go for it. So spring is the chance to take advantage of another opportunity. Now, here's what you must do in the spring. It's a very short season usually. You must hurry. You wouldn't ask a farmer to go bowling in the spring. He hasn't got time. Why? The season is too short. The planting season is too short. You've got to get it done fairly quickly. And life at its longest is short. The Beatles wrote, life is very short. Which is true. My father lived to be 93, but it seemed to be very short. It didn't seem that long. So life is short. For John Lennon, it was extra short. For Michael Landon, life was extra short. For my mentor, died at age 49, that's extra short. But life at the longest is short. So you must learn to appreciate opportunity and take advantage of it while it's day, while it's time. Now, we call spring a window of opportunity. If you have a chance to talk to someone, the window's open. It may not stay long, so take advantage. Don't hesitate. Meet a new friend. Talk to somebody while the window's open. Now, here's the season for everybody to understand because it is so applicable to our life, and that's the season of summer. Two things we must do in the summer: nourish our values and protect. Nourish like a mother, protect like a father. The twin challenges in the summertime help to illustrate life, that we are confronted with both good and evil. Is that the way it should be? You got to ask somebody a little higher up than me. We could get into probably a pretty great debate. Would there be good without evil? Here's the best answer I've got. In our finite position at the moment, here's the best answer. It doesn't seem like it. It seems like it takes the contrast to make a scenario, to make an adventure. Now remember, we didn't set it up, so. But here's what seems to be the setup. Opposites in conflict. That seems to be the setup for a human adventure. One contesting against the other, vying for the territory. Would there be light without darkness? We probably wouldn't call it light. What gives us the value of one is the contrast of the other. But darkness is always trying to move in and take all the territory. But if you turn on the light, its energy starts to repel darkness. Darkness begins to move away, move away. And the brighter the light, the further away the darkness must move. If you walk into a dark room and turn on the light, the darkness is what? Gone. But here's the point to remember, not very far. The darkness seems to be, yes, it's gone, but it's waiting for its chance. That if light loses its energy, darkness has a chance not to move back in. Here's one of the better realistic illustrations, and that's health and illness at odds in your body. Illness trying its best to drive health into a small corner and occupy the territory. And health trying what? To push illness into a small corner. There's this contest going on. Who's going to occupy the territory? If one stays strong, the other is diminished. If the other gains in power, then the other is diminished. Okay. So what you must learn to do is cooperate with the positive side of everything in your body and your life. Sometimes we sabotage our own best interest. The body needs a banana, you send it a Coca-Cola. And the body says, what is the deal here? I'm health trying to drive illness into a small corner. I ordered a banana, you send me a Coca-Cola. So the body could rightfully say what? Whose side are you on? Give us a break here. We need every tool we can get to keep illness at bay. Because if we get weak, I'm telling you, it moves in, takes the territory. So we're in the middle of this contest, and here's what it's called, opposites in conflict. Here's one of the bigger conflicts, liberty and tyranny. Liberty is the absence of tyranny. But even though tyranny is conquered, it's not very far away. The same goes on in your bloodstream. Red corpuscles to nourish like a mother and give life. White corpuscles to fight and kill like a father. White corpuscles say, just show me some infection, I'll kill it. If I don't kill it, what? It killed you. Somebody's going to get killed. In this contest, right? Good, evil, liberty, tyranny, right? Health, illness, winning and losing, right? There's the struggle going on. But here's the key. It's the only way, it seems, it's the only way to create a human adventure. It doesn't seem to be any other way, currently. Now, some speak of a new heaven and a new earth, and maybe the whole arrangement will be different. Could very well be, but in this current experience, it seems like to create an adventure, to create a unique human scenario, we need opposites and conflict. And that's the deal. Thank God for white corpuscles that think negative all day. Tyranny and liberty. Saddam Hussein takes over Kuwait. What should we do? Somebody says, well, Kuwait, what do we care? Well, what if next he wants Saudi Arabia? You say, well, it's a pile of sand, what do we care? Well, what if next he wants Israel? You say, well, little Israel, what do we care? Well, what if next he wants the rest of the Mediterranean? You say, well, yes, I guess we've got to draw a line somewhere. Yes, somewhere. You've always got to draw a line somewhere and tell illness, hey, you can't have any more. You've got to throw up the barriers. Draw a line in the sand. Our President George Bush was right to draw a line in the sand. Put together the coalition and put together 500,000 troops and go kick Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. History demanded it. Hired Chief White Corpuscle General Schwarzkopf. I met the general a couple of times. He was the man to send. So, liberty and tyranny in a contest. And it's the only way to have a civilized society. Tyranny cannot be rehabilitated. Tyranny can only be restrained. So for Saddam Hussein, we put a no-fly zone on top and a no-fly zone on the bottom. Right, to contain, so that liberty would have a chance. The citizens of the world would have a chance. That the world would have a better chance. And we've got to fight these skirmishes. We've been fighting them forever. We've got to fight them forever. Whether they're inside your own body or whether they're in politics, no matter where they are. We must play this game. We must fight this game. But here's what it creates. A great adventure. Let me give you the ultimate now. Could you win if you couldn't lose? And the answer is no, it doesn't seem like it. You couldn't call it winning. You can't win if you couldn't lose. So that's the deal now. Negative, positive. Would there be negative, positive without negative? No, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like this is the current setup, for the foreseeable future. It looks like it's been that way as long as we can remember and as long as the history tells us. So, here's what you want to do if you want the adventure. You must learn to play this game. To work with all the positive forces to defeat the negative forces as early and as soon and as much as possible. To contain the ravages of disease that want to take you early. You got to fight back. You can't just leave it. Somebody says, well, I got my fingers crossed. Not a good philosophy. You got to take your vitamins. You got to do the stuff. You got to do the deal. Jump on the positive side of whatever you want and see if you can't help out in this warfare and this push-shove match. That's the key. So in the summer, here's what you must do. Nourish the plants and the garden. Nourish your values like a mother. Give life. Whatever you start now, you must nourishment and give it life. Don't neglect a new life if you've started a new life. What if you said to a brand new mother, where is your baby? She says, I have no idea. You would say, no, that isn't right. If you start a new life, you must care for it. You must protect it. You must give it life, give it nourishment. Now here's the other part. You must protect it like a father. That's why the old wise man said, we must learn to love and hate. So underline that. You must learn to love and hate. And the illustration he used was, you must learn to love good and hate evil. To deal with the weeds in your garden, you've got to hate weeds. You've got to hate them enough to what? Kill them. You can't say, well, poor weeds. Say, no, this ain't the deal, poor weeds. Don't go soft on this stuff now. You've got to hate evil. You've got to hate the weeds that are out to destroy your garden and rob your children of the nourishment they deserve. So, here's the deal. Love like a mother, hate like a father. And here's the rest of it. Give life like a mother and take life like a father. You've got to take the life of the weeds or they will take the life of your garden. Somebody's going to get killed. Remember? So you must be like a father. Any father would say to whatever threatens his family, take 3 more steps toward this family, you'll cease to exist. I'm father. I kill. So send out the warnings. Send out the signals. Both mother and father reside here. Mother nourishes and father gives protection. And yes, it's possible to love like a father and hate like a mother, just so you get both done. In fact, nothing more dangerous than an angry mother, especially in the animal kingdom. Mess with mama bear's cubs, if you're a threat to her cubs, she'll kill you. That's that female mother instinct. Kill first, talk later. Okay, you got that now? This is good advice. We're going to learn in communication shortly. You've got to learn to put love and hate in the same sentence, because it's vitally important. Sometimes you must say to your children, what? I love you, but I hate what's going on. They got to know what you love and what you hate. You don't hate them, but you hate what's going on. You hate the dangers. So, learn the good evil. Summertime. Now, here's the greatest battle in the mind. Here's what you must not become in the summer in your mind. A victim of yourself. What is that insidious voice inside your own head that says, you're too short, it'll never work for you, you're too tall, right? It's over for you, right? It's never worked for you before. What gives you any idea that it'll work for you now? You've never been able to rise up and take charge of your life. What makes you think you can do it now? There's going to be too many obstacles out there. You'll never overcome them all. What is that insidious voice? It's the same game going on inside your head that's going on in the world. Liberty and tyranny in a push-shove match. And here's what you've got to do. Cooperate with the positive side of your life and let faith drive out doubt, right? Let winning drive out losing. Let positive drive out negative. But you've got to get into the contest. And why get into the contest? Because that's how you create an adventure. There is no other way. It takes both. You've got to learn to laugh, yes, but that's not what the wise men only said. You can't just learn to laugh and keep on laughing. No, that's silly. It says there's also a time to cry. You've got to learn to both laugh and cry. Then it said you must be so sophisticated as not to laugh when it's time to cry. Then it further says you must learn to laugh with those that laugh and learn to cry with those that cry. That now gives you an understanding of what life is all about. Sadness and joy. The contest, the difference. And yet it creates the adventure. What if you went to listen to the symphony orchestra and the symphony only played little happy high notes all evening? Just little pleasant happy high notes. How much of that could you take? Say no. Don't you want to hear the crash of the cymbals that scares you to death? Don't you want to hear the minor key of the music that shows you the tragedy as well as the triumph? And the answer is yes, play me the whole orchestra. I can handle it, because that's what life is all about. Positive, negative. What if the minister only prayed happy prayers every Sunday? How much of that could you take? Happy, happy, every Sunday, happy, happy. How much could you take? Who's going to pray angry prayers? Who's going to pray frustrated prayers? Who's going to weep in public for the lost children? It takes both. You got to weep with those that weep and laugh with those that laugh. You've got to have this full understanding of the game. You've got to understand the highs and the lows, the tragedy and the triumph. Most of the music of the world is written in the minor key, the key of pathos and sadness and mystery and wonder. You can't eliminate that from your life. It takes both to create an adventure. But here's the adventure: to overcome the evil, to put evil in its place. Just like in your mind, you've got to stand guard at the door of your mind and see if you can't suppress, see if you can't do battle with the negative forces. Don't become a victim of yourself. Beware of the thief on the street that's after your purse, but also beware of the thief in your mind that's after your promise. And see if you can't engage in this mental contest and win the day. That's the summer. Now here's one more season, and that's the season of harvest. Here's the key to remember harvest time. In due season, in due time, when it's time. And part of this is to develop the patience so that when it's time, it will come. But you cannot be impatient. Patience is part of the game here. You can't plant the seed and 2-3 days later dig around and say, where's my crop, where's my crop? Say, no, come on, that's foolish. It will take you away to some safe place. You got to plant and what? You got to plant and wait and exercise patience. And then when it comes time, you give it nourishment and you give it care and you give it protection, and then you got to wait some more and you got to wait some more and you got to wait some more. But here's what it says. In due time, in due season, when it's ready, when it's time for you, whatever it is, financially, socially, personally, economically, whatever the time, when it's time, your harvest will come. The old wise man said what? Run the race, and the prize will be yours if you don't faint. And sometimes, in the summer, it's easy when the sun is hot to faint, to spend less time. But if you faint not, if you're there ready after this activity of summer, do the summer work. Just make the little note. Do the work of summer. Nourishing, protecting. Whether it's family, whether it's business. The work of summer. Now, the harvest. Here's the key now to harvest, to wisely use the resources. When your harvest comes now, you can't blow it all. You can't spend it all. You can't live it all up. Remember the two parts to life. One, the full development of all your potential. Second, the wise use of all your resources. Tomorrow, one of our major subjects is going to be the management of time. Time management. If we have time, we'll go through that. As I said, I'm going to cover procrastination, but I've decided to put that off till tomorrow. The management now of your resources when they come. An ancient story says they took the 7 years of plenty and they didn't live it all up. Make the note. You must take the 7 years of plenty and not live it all up. What did they do? They used the 7 years of plenty to get ready for the next 7 years of famine. The first 7 to prepare for the next 7. We'll talk more about that tomorrow under financial independence. So the subject of the seasons, so vital, so important. Such a great illustration to almost every life situation you can think of. It'll help your kids, it'll help your business, it'll help your management people, your sales people, everybody. This could be one of our best seasons in terms of the world. The turning of the century, everybody's thinking about the year 2000. A new century, a new millennium, a new beginning, a new chance, a new opportunity for world cooperation, national, international cooperation. What can we do to play our small part in the whole wide-ranging scheme of things? It's good that everybody's thinking about this. This could be a new time, a new chance, a new opportunity. Right? Yes, we've blown it in the past, and we've messed it up in the past, but maybe, just maybe this time, there's enough technology and enough sanity and enough spirit and enough righteousness and enough rightness, enough stuff to make this, the opening years of the next centuries, some of the most promising years in the last 6,000. Wow. Now, make these quick notes and we're going to take a break. The 4 steps to success. These personal development subjects are just vitally important. The first step to success is good ideas. You must be a collector of good ideas. Here's where my mentor did me the greatest of service, and that was keeping a journal of good ideas. Here's what he said. Don't trust your memory. What classic information. Don't trust your memory. If a good idea comes, jot it down. 1, so you can review it. 2, so that you capture it. It won't be lost. So all those years back then, I started keeping a journal. I got journals you wouldn't believe. Little cheap ones when I first started. Remember the Gregg shorthand? Little books, little spiral things? I used those. You can say, you must be broke. Yes, I wasn't doing very well, so it cost, $1 or something back then. Now my journals are expensive. This one costs $42. And I wished it would have cost more because I'm doing really well. My journals. But if you look at all my journals, you can tell how my life was going. Say he was poor here, and it looks like he was rich here, and Then he was broke again. Now it looks like he's rich again for sure. So, but here's the key. And we'll talk about this more also under time management. Something to pass on to the next generation. The collection of ideas that made you healthy. The collection of ideas that turned your life around. The collection of ideas that caused you to learn extra skills and got the extra income. The wise use of your resources, the ideas you found on how to do that. Think of passing this on now to the next generation and the next generation. This is so valuable. But mostly now, primarily for your own study. So you can go back over what you've collected. And in a now different place, same ideas, but now that you're in a different place, you'll see it in a whole new light on how it will help change your business, help change your career, your future, relationships, and all the rest. Keeping a journal, right? Now, this is for serious students. Non-serious students don't need to keep a journal. Right? But for serious students that are serious about their health and serious about their future, serious about gathering things to make a contribution to others, keeping a journal. That's important. A collection of good ideas, first step to success. Here's the next step, a good plan. You got to have a good plan. You got to have a good health plan. My mentor asked me when I'm 25, Mr. Rohn, what's your current plan for your financial future? And I said, I don't have one. Right? And that was obvious. I said, you got to create a plan. A good financial plan. If we finished the seminar tomorrow and you lingered a while and gave me the details of your current financial plan for the future, would I get so excited about it I'd go across the country and lecture on it? You say, no, Mr. Rohn, you probably wouldn't want to lecture on my plan. My next question would be what? Why not? Have you reached this point in your life's maturity and you don't have a plan that's got you up early and keeping you up late that you're excited about unfolding? We're going to talk more about this tomorrow under Financial Independence. Here's one of the first things you must do if you're a parent. Build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. Build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. Now, there's other protections that a parent must engage in, but here's one of the first ones, since it's so possible living in America. A financial wall around your family nothing can get through. Got to have a good health plan. You know, you can't be out of breath after the year 2000. You got to have the vitality, right? You got to have the breath. You got to have the vitality. So you got to have a good health plan. You got to have a good financial plan. You got to have a good plan for your goals and plans and dreams, and we're going to get into our workshop tomorrow. We'll go through all of that. So number 1 is good ideas. Number 2 is good plans. Here's 2 more. Here's number 3, learning to handle the passing of time. That's one of the big challenges in everybody's life. Learning to handle the passing of time. And then here's number 4, the solving of problems. And that's what life is all about. Taking them on, finding solutions, executing, recording progress.
To receive more information on Jim Rohn's speaking schedule and products, please visit his website at www.jimrohn.com, where you can also subscribe to receive free the weekly Jim Rohn Easy newsletter. Or you can call Jim's office at 800-929-0434. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please call 817-442-5407. All mail should be directed to Jim Rohn International, 2835 Exchange Boulevard, Suite 200, South Lake, Texas, 76092. Thanks again for listening, and make it your best year ever. Here's to your success.
Hi, everybody. This is Jim Rohn. Over the years, I have repeatedly encouraged people in search of the good life to make use of a journal. Invariably, at the conclusion of a seminar, a number of people are sufficiently inspired by learning of the effect journals have had on my life to start using one of their own. Unfortunately, inspiration and enthusiasm quickly fade in the face of all those blank pages. Instead of finding new answers to life, the journal seems to open a floodgate of new questions, such as, what am I supposed to write? Should I only write about business events? How often should I be writing? What kind of journal is best? Does spelling count? The purpose of these tapes, then, is not only to explore the incredible value of recording your life's experiences, but also
to examine the endless uses and methods of keeping a journal. Hopefully, by the conclusion of this program, your questions will have been answered, and you will be confidently embarking on a new adventure in achievement with the vehicle of pen and paper. The first thing to understand about a journal is that it's your book. And because it is yours, you must be the one to select the size and style you feel most suits your needs and personal preferences. Like a favorite armchair, a journal must be comfortable enough that you will want to go to it often. You may, in fact, find yourself experimenting with a variety of journals over the years as your needs and tastes change. During the past 25 years, I'd be willing to bet that I've tried almost every conceivable system of capturing ideas on paper, from loose-leaf binders and file cards to dime store notebooks and hardbound volumes. I've had big journals and little journals, journals with lined pages and journals with blank pages, all of which met a certain need at a certain period in my life. And believe me, you too will undoubtedly go through half a dozen different methods over the years, and that's to be expected. As you continue to grow and develop, you will soon discover that last year's systems won't likely meet this year's needs. You see, one of the keys to success is flexibility. We must always be on the search for more effective methods to facilitate and accommodate new ideas. But let's face it, in the beginning, the only thing that matters is that you develop the journal habit. The journal we've included with this tape program may or may not be exactly what you're looking for, but just start using it. Like ordering Chinese food for the first time, the only way to find out which dishes you will or will not like is to try a few. By using this journal to get you started, you will not only develop the journal habit, but you will also discover in the process of using it what you like or do not like about it. Then when you've finished, you can always look for a journal that is more tailored to suit your specific needs. And I would suggest that when you go to buy your second journal, that you take the time to get just the right one. Remember, the use of anything received will always be in direct proportion to how it makes you feel when you use it. The color and material of the binding, the texture of the paper, the width of the lines or the absence of lines are important considerations. If you feel lines tend to restrict your creative flow, then go with blank pages. If you feel uncomfortable with blank pages, then choose line pages. Hey, it's your book. Make sure it reflects what you are. My latest journal is a leather-bound volume for which I paid handsomely, but it's worth every penny I spent. The richness and the smell of the leather in themselves are enticing. It's enjoyable just to hold it in my hands. And, too, it's important to me to know that unique ideas are being stored in a suitable place. Somebody once asked me why I pay as much as I do for an empty book, and my answer was simple. I intend to put something valuable in it. Let's face it, you wouldn't store precious gems in an empty cigar box. So why put $1 million idea in a 10-cent book? Just one bit of advice, however. Bear in mind that a journal should be capable of going wherever you go. A journal that requires more space than your briefcase permits or more room than your desktop allows for you, more often than not, it will be left at home, gathering dust instead of thoughts and cobwebs instead of observations. But let's get to the heart of the matter. Buying a journal is the easy part. The real challenge lies in filling it up. And that's what we want to deal with now. What should go into a journal if it is to have meaning and value in your life? Perhaps the best way to answer this question is to consider the purposes and functions of a journal. Once the matter of why we should write is clear, then the what we should write will become immediately apparent. There are so many functions performed by a journal that I could conceivably spend the remainder of this tape and a half a dozen others discussing them. But since more important than listening to my reasons for why you should be keeping a journal is getting busy actually using your journal, I'll try to limit the list and merely highlight some of the majors. One of the unique characteristics of a journal is that it offers you an effective way to figure it all out. to figure out life, to figure out people, to figure out business dilemmas, and most important of all, to figure out yourself. There is something magical about writing down a problem. It is almost as though in the very act of writing what is wrong, you start to discover ways of making it right. Perhaps the source of this magic lies in the objective perspective that writing affords you. Even though you are describing your problem, your challenge, your life, your uncertainty, and your indecision, the fact that you are writing about it, as opposed to mentally pondering it, creates a space between you and the problem. It is within this space that solutions have room to grow. You see, writing about events and circumstances that occur helps you to clarify exactly what is happening. When we describe life to ourselves only in our minds, our imaginations tend to feed false or distorted information about how things are, positive or negative. When we describe a situation in writing, however, we become more factual, more accurate, and certainly more realistic. Then, as we reread what we have written, we create a new picture in our minds to replace the distorted picture we have been working with. And once we finally see things as they are, rather than as we think they are, we can then see our way clear to make them better. At the conclusion of this program, you might in fact want to use this process to get your journal started. Write about a current dilemma you are facing. Perhaps it is a personal problem, a business matter, a family issue, or a financial problem. Whatever it is, take the time to capture it on paper the way it really is. But remember, writing out the problem is only the first step to creative problem solving and effective decision making. The next step is to carefully analyze what you have written. Here are some of the key things to look for. First, exaggerations or distortions of the truth. Are you really telling it like it is? Take another look. Perhaps your concern is making it seem worse than it is, or your enthusiasm is making it seem better than it is. Second, a tendency to blame circumstances or someone else for your problem instead of seeing yourself as the cause. You see, most of our difficulties are the result of either failing to do what we could have done or in doing in haste what we should never have done. Third, a tendency to expect circumstances, or still worse, other people to change in order for your problem to be solved. Let me remind you one more time that things get better when you get better. Passive hope never has and never will improve human circumstances. And finally, look closely for weak points in the obstacle where you might attack to bring that obstacle to its knees. Remember, David slew Goliath with but one small stone. It usually doesn't take much more than a few minor adjustments in either our attitude or our action plan to solve a major problem. Essentially, you must learn to view your problems like a scientist who puts tiny organisms on a slide. Examine your circumstances through the lens of the microscope of truth to see their real nature, their real perimeters, and their real composition. And two, as you examine your problem, do as any scientist would do, record your observations. You see, as you continue to refine your statement of the problem, of the way it really is, you will begin to move closer to the solution. And speaking of solutions, be sure to record the ultimate conclusion to your dilemma. If it worked well, then it is worth remembering. And if it didn't work well, as you had hoped it would, then it is even more essential to record the outcome, lest you should find yourself repeating mistakes instead of learning from them. Mistakes in judgment are nothing to be ashamed of. Surely most of our personal growth comes as a result of our errors. But what is truly unforgivable is to make the same mistake twice. Every mistake has its own price tag, but the most costly error anyone can make is an error unlearned and often repeated. If something didn't work, it may be too late to undo the mistake, but it's never too late to make adjustments and revisions in your thinking. You see, better decision-making comes from the better thinking habits, and better thinking habits comes from practical experience, learning both what to do and what not to do. Becoming a more effective thinker on paper is a sure way of becoming a more effective person in practice. As step one for getting used to using your journal, then, I would suggest writing down problems that you encounter and recording all the steps you can take or did take to solve them, as well as their eventual outcomes. Now, I realize this is only a suggestion, but please let me offer you a bit of advice about suggestions. You see, many people will hear this suggestion, agree that it sounds like a good idea to try, and even go so far as to mentally agree to do it sometime. And therein lies the problem, that nebulous word sometime. We all know what happens to the promises we make to do something tomorrow or next week or as soon as we have a chance. Somehow, we never quite get around to doing it. My advice is that if you think a suggestion has merit and that it's worth trying, that you promise yourself you will do it. Make a firm commitment now at the conclusion of this program. You will have chosen one of my suggestions, and that you will not do another thing until you have opened your journal and written at least one page. Otherwise, to be perfectly honest, you might as well stop the tape now and give it and the journal to a friend. For surely if you lack the discipline to start a journal, it is highly unlikely that you will ever have the discipline to continue to use one either. This leads us into a second function of your journal, which is the capturing of good ideas. How many times as we go through the day do we come across a good idea, a unique quote, an interesting piece of information, or even a significant personal discovery? And each time we do, we mentally say to ourselves, I must remember that. Now, I'm willing to admit here that the human mind is a remarkable thing, but I also know from experience that the human memory leaves a lot to be desired. I think Emerson captured it best when he made this statement. I suppose that every old scholar has had the experience of reading something in a book which has significance to him, but which he could never find again. Sure he is that he read it there, but no one else ever read it, nor can he find it again, though he buy the book and ransack every page. How true! What we do not somehow capture today is lost forever. There are a lot of things in life that we can trust, but my experience has taught me that the human memory is most definitely not one of them. There are so many sources of insight and inspiration all around us. Good ideas flow in abundance from sermons and lectures, from books and magazines, television documentaries, business meetings, and conversations. But obviously, for you to capture the ideas, it is essential, as I mentioned earlier, that your journal always be at your side. I remember one time attending a church service in Carmel, California. The sermon that Sunday morning was excellent, so I opened my journal and started taking notes. But out of the 400 people in attendance that day, guess how many of the others were taking notes? Not one. So there I was taking notes in my journal from this sermon, and pretty soon the people around me were starting to give me strange looks. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see them nudging one another and whispering. I felt like some kind of spy. I could almost hear them saying, he's going to get out of here with some of this stuff. And sure enough, I did. I got the stuff. So what I'm suggesting is that you get in there and get out with some of the stuff. Let other people sit there thinking they can remember it all. Let other people treat opportunity casually, but not you. I would ask you to treat it seriously. Let other people wonder at the end of their lives where it all went wrong, but not you. Let other people play while you work, fool around while you study, soak up the sun while you soak up ideas. 10 years from now, they'll still be trying to figure out how to pay the bills, or wondering why their marriage isn't working out, or why they don't seem to be getting ahead professionally, but not you. Life always rewards the serious students for their labors. So, since we all know that it's nearly impossible for most of us to remember the exact phrasing of an inspiring line, or the specific details of a business conference over an extended period of time, we've got to get serious about capturing it now. Generally, if we wait until the end of the day to describe events and happenings and conversations in our journals, the specific details have already escaped us. At best, we are left with scattered fragments, and it's hard to build an exciting future from mere bits and pieces of the past and present. So I would encourage you to get it all down as it comes your way. Financial ideas, personal development ideas, time management ideas, family ideas, business ideas. Everything you have the good fortune to come across. If an idea is worth listening to, worth reading, worth remembering, then it is also worth capturing in your journal. And there are many reasons for making the effort to capture good ideas, not the least of which is the fact that the simple act of writing something on paper helps to etch the idea more firmly in our conscious minds. To hear it, or see it, or read it is one thing. To take the time and make the mental effort to capture it with paper and pen is so much more. Second, every idea has its time and place. As Victor Hugo once wrote, there is one thing stronger than all the armies in the world, and that is an idea whose time has come. Perhaps the ideas you capture today will not have any specific meaning or purpose in your life at this moment, but ultimately at some future point in time when you march into battle, the armory of ideas you have carefully and conscientiously assembled over the years will serve you well. Here's another interesting phenomenon about ideas. As we collect a variety of thoughts on any given theme or subject, there is a tendency for these individual ideas to come together and form themselves into a whole new idea, much as the single flakes of snow, when gathered together, can be formed into snowballs and snowballs into snowmen. Or perhaps a more graphic example would be that of the igloo, which is, after all, a dwelling built entirely of tiny snowflakes, which have been compressed by their weight and frozen together over a period of time, such that whole blocks of them may be cut out to build a structure. The successful human being is one who has learned to diversify his interests and gather knowledge from a variety of sources. Gather enough good ideas in one area of life, and you will form a solid block. Gather enough solid blocks together, and you can construct a whole new life. But be aware of one thing. The mental storage bank of good ideas is very much like the bottom drawer of our desks or the extra drawer in the kitchen that holds a collection of valuable items gathered over the years, none of which can ever be found when we go to look for them again because of the chaotic manner in which they were stored. We pour information into our mental computers much like we dump old letters and store coupons into the extra drawer, helter-skelter, and hence irretrievable. One of the first things we attend to when setting up a new business is the development of a filing system for records so that we can easily locate information whenever needed. When we move into a new home, we carefully pack all of our possessions in clearly labeled boxes so that we can find something again in a hurry if needed. But when it comes to facts, to ideas, to observations, we have no system, as though they are incidental rather than essential to our better future. Your journal, then, provides you with the means of logically assembling and storing the pieces of information that come your way. Now, there are many ways to assemble the data in your journal for easy reference. For example, you might find it helpful to keep an index at the back of each volume so that you merely list the highlights of your entries, so that your index might read like this: Financial Ideas, pages 5, 53, 96, and 104. Or, Ideas for Increasing Company Efficiency, pages 46, 82, and 111. At one time, I used to keep 3 journals, one for personal observations, one for business notations, and a third for creative ideas for a book I was writing. Of course, it didn't take me long to discard that system. Carrying 3 journals around the world is no easy task. Then I tried using 3 colors of ink in the same journal, so that at a glance I could focus on any one of the 3 areas. While it was certainly easier carrying 3 pens than 3 journals, it was still somewhat of a cumbersome system. When the ideas are flowing fast and furious, you don't always have the time to search for a red, a green, or a blue pen. The method I finally settled on was setting aside certain sections of my journal for specific uses. For example, at the back of my journals I have a separate section for recording my goals, for listing interesting quotes, and for thoughts on new speech material. Perhaps you may want to set aside part of your journal for specific ongoing projects or interests that you feel might warrant a section of their own. Choose one of these methods or devise a new one, but make sure you set up some kind of system. Remember, failure more often than not is attributable to lack of information about how to succeed. Each of us has the capacity to seek out the information we require to achieve our goals. Unfortunately, we do not all have the discipline required to gather the data systematically so that the raw material is easily accessible and ready to be put into practical use the moment opportunity presents itself. How sad it would be if opportunity came knocking on your door, but you had to keep him waiting while you rummaged through drawers and files for the key. Undoubtedly, by the time most people have finally located the key, opportunity has long since become impatient and gone on to knock on the door of someone else. Next, by taking the time to capture and assemble information in our journals, we now have the added benefit of being able to review these ideas whenever we wish. You don't have to run back to the library to reread the book you borrowed last year, or call a friend on the phone and try to reconstruct the conversation you had last month. If you've captured the essence of the conversation or the highlights of the book in your journal, it will always be there for you to refer to. And here is the key point. For your journals to have their greatest value, they must be frequently reviewed. You see, writing in journals is merely a way of capturing information, but it is by rereading our journals that we begin the process of translating information into practical knowledge about ourselves, our environment, our relationships, our businesses, our financial affairs, our dreams, and our own better future. I would strongly urge you to set aside a day each week, or at the very least each month, to review your recent entries. And then once a year, take all of your journals off the shelf and read them from cover to cover. What you read will probably make an incredible story of personal growth. You see, more than anything else, a journal is a place to document the development of your own life. It is a textbook of self-discovery and self-awareness. In fact, sometimes what you don't write can be as revealing as what you have written. A friend of mine recently shared with me the discovery that in rereading her journals, she realized that everything she had written centered around other people's lives, their accomplishments, their failures, their dreams, their needs. I finally realized, she said, that I had spent most of my adult life as a mirror reflecting everybody else's existence, rather than as a human being living a life of my own. In the pages of a journal, our innermost feelings and dreams are revealed, as are our strengths, our weaknesses, our positive attributes, and our negative habits and characteristics. If not in the words themselves, then at least between the lines of what we have written are the shadows of self-doubt, pride, envy, jealousy, and anger. Just as actions speak louder than words, so too will journals often say more than what we have written. A journal, then, should also capture your observations and reactions, for somewhere between what we see and what we do will be revealed what we are. Capture on paper the events, the circumstances, and happenings of your life. Describe the near miss you had while driving to work on the freeway. Outline your observations of people's behavior at the office party. Paint the picture of your day at the beach, the pounding surf, the soaring gulls, the distant sails. And then, when you have written about what your eyes have perceived and your ears have heard, go one step further and describe your feelings, your emotional responses to life. Describe your feelings when you learned that John got the promotion that you felt was rightfully yours, or when you learned that Sally is getting married next month to your ex-husband. Describe it all. Don't miss any of the events of your life. Capture the joy of your victories as well as the agony of your defeats. And remember, it doesn't have to be a monumental occurrence to be worth capturing. Truly, most human lives consist of and evolve around minor happenings. So even a minor event and your response to it can have a major impact on how your life turns out. You see, part of the human experience, perhaps the most important part, lies in learning to translate these events which occur outside of us into words and emotions within our inner worlds. The better we become at describing what goes on around us, the better we will be able to understand some of the conflicts and turmoils which take place within us. Cause and effect always go hand in hand. Trying to understand or deal with the effects without a clear picture of the cause is a rather hopeless situation to be in. Remember that all human emotions are effects which can be traced back to particular events or causes. A better understanding of events will always give us a clearer picture of the effects we may be experiencing. Also, on the subject of events and feelings, you will find as you begin to open up and really tell it like it is, that your journal becomes an excellent, empathetic friend, one who will listen to all you have to say about your joys, your pain, your fears, or your concerns. And I would strongly urge you to get these emotions out of your head and onto the page. For powerful negative emotions are diminished by writing, and powerful positive emotions become explosive. You see, writing about your fear reduces its strength, and capturing your excitement magnifies its power. And feel free to say it all. These are your private collections, your personal recollections. They are not going to be read aloud at the next staff meeting, used in court against you, or published in the New York Times. Write freely. Don't let anything inhibit your flow of your thoughts. Write in half sentences. Break all the rules of grammar and punctuation if you choose. Draw pictures, make diagrams. Anything goes. Neatness doesn't count, and neither does spelling. This is one place where you should feel free to say it all, and say it as you wish. By the way, if you feel uncomfortable abandoning the rules of your 8th grade English teacher, then this too should tell you something about yourself. Hey, you are even free to do the worst thing of all. Use somebody else's words. Glue in newspaper articles, cartoons, quotes, whatever you wish. No one is going to give you an F for plagiarism in your journal. There is only one suggestion I would offer concerning the format of your journal, and that is to record the date, time, and location of each entry. Not only will this provide you with a means of measuring your progress, your growth trends, the different phases of your life, and your changing attitudes, but where and when you write can in themselves provide interesting revelations. A man wrote to me several months ago to share such a discovery he made from his journals. It seems that in reviewing his writings of the past year, he had noticed a definite negative pattern emerging. Every entry on a Wednesday afternoon or evening outlined thoughts of self-doubt, discouragement, and uncertainty about the direction he was headed in. It did not take long for him to track down the source of those defeating thoughts. Wednesday was the day when he had lunch with 2 colleagues from his former place of employment. To test the validity of his theory, he flipped back to the Wednesdays when, due to illness, vacations, or business matters, the luncheons had not taken place, and sure enough, there were no negative entries on those particular days. Having reached the conclusion that these luncheons were costing him far more than the price of the meal, it did not take him long to take the necessary steps to solve the dilemma. Others have discovered such interesting tendencies as writing about personal concerns while at the office and business matters at home, or feeling particularly inspired and eager before leaving for the office in the morning, and completely exhausted and enervated by 10 a.m. Remember, everything affects everything else. Your environment, your associations, your family, your friends, even your occupation has an effect on you. So, too, do the books you read, the television programs you watch, and the conversation you engage in. But influencers are often very subtle, making it difficult to detect the effect they are having until the damage is done. Like tiny little holes in a tire which can go undetected for hundreds of miles, the little pinpricks of subtle negative influences will eventually leave you just as deflated after a while. Your journal then becomes like a photograph album, capturing moments in your life. The only difference is that a photograph album, kept for many years, reveals physical changes in yourself and your environment, while journals over a period of time reflect mental changes within yourself and about your environment. But perhaps the most important function your journal performs lies in the area of communications. First and foremost, your journal gives you a chance to talk to yourself and to hear what you are saying about your life, your future, your relationships, and your goals. As you begin to develop the habit of writing down your problems, recording your observations, emotions, and reactions to life's events, you will undoubtedly find yourself both posing and responding to a whole new set of questions about your past, present, and future. Why did I say that? Why does he always make me feel that way? If I follow this course, where will I be 5 years from now? As you begin to both ask and answer yourself on paper, you will be amazed at the incredible leaps in personal understanding and self-awareness you will experience. And remember, any positive change which occurs within you will ultimately manifest itself in a positive result outside of you, in your social or professional world, your attitude, your bank account, your habits, and even your appearance. We stand forever exposed to life and to the endless variations that make up the human drama. Our task as human beings is twofold. First, we must effectively translate what is going on around us into terms we can comprehend. And second, we must effectively express what is going on within us into terms the rest of the world can understand. Despite the major technological advances enabling us to communicate globally and perhaps even extraterrestrially, I would suggest that while our means of communication has greatly improved, we are still living in the dark ages when it comes to saying what we mean and understanding the meaning of what is being said. As William James wisely observed, the most immutable barrier in nature is between one man's thoughts and another's. As much as we live together, work together, try together, grow together, discover together, explore together, and even pray together, man is truly an island unto himself, cut off from other human islands by the deep channels of non-communication. Writing in your journal is one of the best ways I know of to develop more effective communication skills. As you become better at describing life to yourself, you will find that you become better at describing yourself to life. put into more practical terms, as you become better at saying what you really want and how you really feel to yourself, you will be able to better express yourself and your feelings to others, and in return, better able to understand what others are really feeling and really saying to you. You see, communicating with people our own age, or who have similar educational backgrounds, incomes, professions, or beliefs, is a relatively easy process. But what about the two people who are, to all outward appearances, radically different? A teenager and a 40-year-old father, a high school dropout and a college professor, a successful lawyer and an unemployed auto worker. Now the real challenges of communication begin to manifest themselves. But they are challenges that using a journal can help us overcome. You see, regardless of the differences in our outer worlds, inside human beings are all basically alike. We've all known sorrow, maybe not from the same event, but we've all experienced the emotion. We've all known the joy of achievement, perhaps in different circumstances, but certainly the same feeling. Regardless of our outward differences, those basic human needs and emotions will always provide a common ground or build a bridge for effective human communications. You see, by the time we have reached adulthood, most of us have experienced almost every aspect of the human drama in one form or another. The problem is that most of the experiences have gone right on by us. We have never taken the time to capture them, to ponder them, to analyze how we felt at that time, how we responded to others while we were in those circumstances, or what our priorities and needs were during that period in our lives. Suppose, however, that you took the time to capture the events and happenings of your life on purpose with paper and pen, so that you always had a wealth of experiences from which to draw. Imagine now what an incredible impact this awareness could have on your life. How it could help to bridge the gap between you and your children, your clients, your associates, your neighbors. You see, if you will but take the time to capture how it is for you at any given point in your life, then you will always be in a position to relate to how it might be for someone else at this moment in their lives. The situations might be different, but the basic needs and emotions never are. We don't have to dress alike or go to the same schools or be the same age or sex to feel the same way. Use your journal then as a textbook for life. Use it to capture the full range of human emotions that you continuously gather from your experiences. I promise you that if you will take just a little time to capture your experiences, the end result will more than repay you for the time you invest. Now here's another question frequently posed about using a journal. The question is, how often should I be writing? The answer to that is simple: as often as you wish and as often as you need. There are two extremes to avoid: never writing in your journal and constantly writing in your journal. In the first instance, you will be participating in life without capturing it, and in the latter case, you will be capturing life without participating in it. Life should be a delicate blend of both observation and action. And let me stress again that the first discipline to be mastered in using a journal is to develop the habit of always having it with you. If you do not open it for weeks at a time, that's okay. Just get into the habit of carrying it. Without much effort on your part, plenty of opportunities for putting it to use will present themselves. Also, the simple act of carrying your journal speaks to the world. It says, I am a conscious observer and participant in life's events. When you present yourself to life as a serious student, life will respond by providing you with an endless opportunity to learn and grow and develop and enhance any and all aspects of your life. Remember, no tape program, no book, no seminar, and no encouragement from me can help you to develop the discipline to use your journal. Experience has taught me that the most I can hope to do is trigger your interest and enthusiasm. Recently, I had the chance to address a group I had spoken to several months before. The last time I had been with them, I had given one of my all-time best speeches on the importance of thinking on paper, with a particular emphasis on using a journal. They were an enthusiastic and responsive group, and it appeared from the many letters and cards that flowed in after my speech that my ideas had been particularly well received. However, just after I was introduced the second time, I asked the group one question: how many of you are now using a journal? I am sad to report that out of a group of almost 500, only a few hands were raised. The rest of the audience exchanged sheepish glances, much as you might give your doctor when he asks you if you have cut down on smoking. The mysterious workings of the human mind never cease to amaze me. We all know what is good for us. We all know that it will keep us healthy or happy or prosperous, but somehow we fool ourselves into believing that we'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow I will buy that book and read it. Tomorrow I will go on that exercise program. Tomorrow I will speak to John about that problem. Some people will actually listen to this tape, agree that keeping a journal could indeed change their lives dramatically, and yet never get around to writing the first page. But don't let that be you. I assure you that by the time you have finished listening to this program, the only thing that will stand between your intent and your accomplishment will be your ability to discipline yourself to get started. And believe me, once you get started, once you make the effort to begin, once you develop the journal habit, you'll be giving your own lectures to friends and associates about its rewards. In the final analysis, whether you decide to start a journal, and still more important, whether you exercise the discipline to use it, the decision and the action must come from inside you. No wise counsel from any source will ever replace the intensity that comes from a personal commitment to excellence. It is often said that reality is the best beginning, and perhaps it might also be the best beginning for your journal. One of the first entries you will want to consider making is a complete account of how it is for you right at this moment in your life. What's got you turned on? What's got you turned off? How is it going at home, at work? Are you happy, frustrated, excited, perplexed, worried, doubtful, or any or all of the above? You may want to write a brief description of how it's going in each area of your life, and honestly tell it like it is. Perhaps in your writings you will uncover a particular void in your life that needs to be filled, or a major obstacle that must be tackled if things are to work out for you as you want them to. Use your journal to then chart out a course of action to eliminate whatever is standing between you and your better future. Examine your progress. Outline the steps you've taken or could still take. By the time you've dealt with these issues, your journal will have already become invaluable. If you find you are still having difficulty getting anything on paper, one of the first entries you might consider making is an explanation of why you bought the journal in the first place. If you will but pause to consider what you hope to achieve by using a journal, then what to put into its pages will be obvious. If, for example, you bought a journal to record your feelings, then write about your feelings. If you bought it to keep track of business developments, then write about your meetings, your clients, and the ideas you have about improving the products or services of your company. A journal should be used in response to a specific need, a need to express, to analyze, to ponder, to explain, to record, to consider, or to examine some or all of the elements and aspects of your life. And remember, there is no correct set of procedures for keeping your journal. Journals are as unlimited in possibilities as are the individuals who use them. Journals and life share one unique characteristic. Both provide you with a space to fill as you wish. And for those who are not yet sure how they wish to fill life spaces, a journal offers you a chance to paint mental pictures of the limitless paths you could travel. In a novel, an author places imaginary characters in imaginary circumstances and then predicts their behavior and responses to these events. So be the author of your own life. Create on paper a set of circumstances Then place you in the middle of them. How would you feel about doing that? What would it be like to live in that city? Being there, how would you feel having those responsibilities or those freedoms? Pick a direction and travel with your imagination to new environments, to new positions, to new opportunities. Create on paper an ideal job, describe an ideal relationship, state an ideal income, outline an ideal code of personal behavior, design an ideal lifestyle. Then take your dreams and transfer them into written goals with priorities and deadlines. List the specific steps you must take in order to achieve them, and then write out a detailed plan of action. Take your dreams for your mind to the page, and then take them from the pages of your journal and make them happen in your life. Learn to paint these mental pictures, and then, like an artist, create something of substance on the canvas of your life, using all of your available resources. Add new color, new depths, new dimensions, new meanings to where and who you currently are by exploring where and who you still can be. Set yourself free and explore the possibilities of life with paper and pen. There's no risk involved. You cannot fail. Stretch yourself mentally, expand your inner horizons, and you will find that life will respond in kind by presenting you with new opportunities and associations, new experiences from which to grow and learn, and new circumstances in which you will become more than you had previously dreamed possible. Remember the advice of Napoleon Hill, who wrote that whatever the human mind can conceive and believe, it can also achieve. Ponder also the biblical suggestion that as a man thinketh, so he becomes. And know without the shadow of all doubt that whatever you create on the pages of your journal, you can, with enough belief, commitment, discipline, and desire, create in your life. In closing, I would like to share with you the following thoughts from Will and Ariel Durant's 100-page masterpiece, The Lessons of History. Civilization, they wrote, is not inherited. It has to be learned and earned by each generation anew. Consider education not as the painful accumulation of facts and dates, nor merely the necessary preparation of the individual to earn his keep in the world, but as the transmission of our mental, moral, technical, and aesthetic heritage, as fully as possible to as many as possible, for the enlargement of man's understanding, control, embellishment, and enjoyment of life. If a man is fortunate, he will, before he dies, gather up as much as he can of his civilized heritage and transmit it to his children. And to his final breath, he will be grateful for this inexhaustible legacy, knowing that it is our nourishing mother and our lasting life. Gather up all you can, the hopes, the sorrows, the lessons, the friendships, the achievements, and the disappointments. Gather it all that it may teach you, and in turn that the lessons you have learned may become perhaps part of the legacy that you leave behind for your children and indeed the world at large. Let your journals capture your personal history, and in doing so, they add to the history of all mankind and to our collective heritage. Truly, the most valuable treasure anyone can leave behind is the knowledge they have acquired in their one lifetime. It has been suggested that what we are, a unique creation of unlimited possibilities and potential, is God's gift to us, and that what we do with all that we are, the works we do, the lives we enrich, and the contributions we make, are our gifts to God. May your life be devoted to becoming all that you can become, and may your journals capture every moment of the adventure.
To receive more information on Jim Rohn's speaking schedule and products, please visit his website at www.jimrohn.com, where you can also subscribe to receive free the weekly Jim Rohn Easy newsletter. Or you can call Jim's office at 800-929-0434. In the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please call 817-442-5407. All mail should be directed to Jim Rohn International, 2835 Exchange Boulevard, Suite 200, South Lake, Texas, 76092. Thanks again for listening, and make it your best year ever. Here's to your success.